Hello Taurus, thank you for joining me for your weekly forecast for week commencing the 8th of October. Your ruler Venus continues to track backwards in your sector of relating and square up to Mars, the planet which is very much to do with assertiveness, which is in your 10th solar house. So you are likely to be more assertive at this time than you have been for some while. And because of the square with Venus, if there is a relationship which is not quite functioning as you would like, you're likely speaking out. However, this week also sees a new moon in your sector of health, fitness, diet and work. And this is an opportunity to galvanise whatever strands you've been embracing of late to make them that more effective. But it's a new moon that squares up with Pluto and forges an obtuse angle with Neptune. You can't be idealistic about some of these changes you want to make, but at the same time, if you are someone who's been very conscientious in the past, always done what's right for others, because of Pluto and Saturn's role, they're pushing you to be more of an independent spirit, to find your voice, to break away from the shackles of just doing the expected thing. So if you are in a dynamic where you have been very dutiful, but it's beginning to close in on you, this may be a big strand, a big energy that comes into your week, and there could be tensions from this. Now, fortunately, Mercury moves into a fabulous location midweek for you, which is going to help you to take what other people say a little more dispassionately. You're going to be more objective, and it also forges a great link with Saturn, also in that sector of expansion. If there is someone that you're talking to who has wisdom or knowledge, or you can form a solid partnership with, in the second half of this week, you can make great progress in the discussions you have. It's been a real pleasure being with you. I'd love it if you would like or comment on this video, or if you've yet to do so, please do subscribe to this channel. Thank you. Hello Taurus, thank you for joining me for your monthly forecast for October. Thank you so much for all the kind comments and suggestions that have been sent in regarding my rheumatoid arthritis. Some of these have been really brilliant, and I am embracing with some with real promising results. This month begins with the Sun and Mercury for you, for the Sun or the Ascendant, in the part of your situation which is very much to do with practicalities. So we're talking about work, life organisation, things like fitness and diet and domestic order. Not the most sexy stuff you might think, but stuff that actually you have a real appreciation for, because being an earth sign, you get tangible achievements. So the Sun and Mercury are asking you to try to get things a little more refined in your existence. Now, if you're someone who's naturally very tidy, organised and virtuous and works in a job helping people, then this may all seem very natural to you. But there may be some areas that you can fine-tune which are not immediately obvious. For example, are you actually doing too much for other people? Are you, for example, at home shouldering too much of the domestic load when someone else could actually be doing a bit more of their bit? In terms of your diet and fitness regimes, are there little fine-tunes that you could make in terms of nutrition, or trying different approaches that can be more enlightening? These kind of things I think will be to the fore. On the back of the quarter moon, which occurs on the 2nd for 1 week, you're just being urged not to try too hard, to be too virtuous and pack too much in. It is important to prioritise what really needs doing and not scatter yourself, because you could end up feeling a bit stressed out and tired if you do. But of course, Venus is your ruling planet, and it's going to be generating an enormous amount of publicity in the YouTube community, particularly this month, because Venus goes into a retrograde on the 5th. And through to the end of this month, we'll be going backwards in your sector of relating, the 7th house. So relationships are undoubtedly going to be to the fore. In November, I'll just tell you that Venus actually inverts and it revisits your sixth solar house. It's going to be relationships, more about work. It then re-emerges into the sign of Scorpio early in December. So this is going to be a long period, I feel, where relationships and relating are going to be an important part of your thinking. But we also have, in the first 2 weeks of this month, Mars, which of course has been a bit of an aggravant with Uranus in your sign since the second week of May in a right angle. So there's been a bit of a battle going on for you, perhaps within yourself, perhaps within someone that you feel has tried to dominate you too much, been a bit controlling. Could be a job, it could be an organisation, it could be a lifestyle, it could be a mindset. But something's being challenged during that period of time. And the great news is that Mars is accelerating now and moving away from the right angle with Uranus. But Uranus is still forging a T-square with the nodal axis with the North Node, the point of destiny in Leo, which is all about your emotional well-being, and also the South Node, which is in the part of your scope to do with your work and how you interact with people in a wider context. Now, this T-square is going to be joined by other influences this month, and I do feel it is very important to mention, because Uranus, right at the very start of your sign, is giving you a little nibble, a little nudge of some dramatic changes that are going to be coming your way from the 6th of March next year, right through till year 2026. This is because Uranus is a radical planet. It's a planet that shakes things up, and it is going to be rewinding for the rest of this year. So this T-square, really, even once the North Node and the nodal axis reverses into Cancer in December, I still think it's going to be activated for you. So it's important to understand the role of Uranus in this, because if you're born in the early degrees of Taurus, you're going to be really feeling this energy very powerfully. If you have any other natal aspects which are connecting with this particular position, that too suggests that you may be restless and not quite sure of how you should go forwards. And this may be particularly so in terms of relationships. Now, on the 9th of this month, we do have a new moon. And if you did want to take on a new diet or start a new job, you would think that this is the perfect time to do so. And you would be right. But it's important to understand the role of Neptune, which feeds into this new moon. Neptune is a fascinating planet. Since 2012, it's probably changed your outlook a little bit around friendships, the collective group activities. Even in some of your hopes and aspirations may have become a bit more idealistic. So when you're thinking about work, for example, or changes you want to make, they need to be really rooted in reality. So challenge yourself a little bit. I think that's going to be a good thing to do. But on the 10th, Mercury moves out of this very precise and brittle zone that it's been in and moves into Scorpio. So even if there are some challenges with Venus going through that retrograde and also being in that square with Mars, which for me suggests that even if you try to be diplomatic, there's another part of you that may be much more assertive if someone has been a rather dominating figure and not listening to some of the concerns you've had over the last 5 or 6 months when it comes to feeling that your voice is heard, that there is a sense of equilibrium and fairness in the relationship between you. But as I said, this could be something that's gone on inside of you too. But certainly in the first 2 weeks of this month, some kind of battle of wills around power, around relationships is possible. That could be with your line manager, it could be with your parents, it could be with your kids if you have them. But equally, it could be with a partner. It just depends on your unique circumstances. Now, Venus is a beautiful planet. It gives you that wonderful sensuality. And in the 7th house, ordinarily, it's an opportunity to relate superbly well and can very much bring fortune. And with Mercury moving into this area, I think a bit more logic comes into the equation. So if there has been some tensions, Mercury will help you to just see things a little bit more objectively. I'm not suggesting that you will be seeing things subjectively, but all of us can at times be quite emotional. So Mercury moving into this area can help you to just stand back a little bit, see that other people may have very different viewpoints to your own, and help you to acknowledge them even if you don't agree. Whereas in the sixth house, as it was before for the first 9 days, that's more brittle. It's more, they don't agree with me. They're only seeing their only narrow view, but that might be what someone could think about you too, because seeing the big picture when the Sun and Mercury are in the sixth house is a more challenging thing. But all this is set to change once you get through the quarter moon of the 16th, which is in your ninth solar house, and that's very much about expansion, and of course that's where you have Saturn and Pluto. But with its angle to the sixth house, don't promise anything from the 16th for 1 week that you don't have a realistic opportunity to fulfill. So it's very much the time to under-promise and over-deliver. And if there is something you tend to do where you're self-sacrificing, whether it's doing more of the domestic load than a partner, or perhaps tidying up over your kids too much, set some firmer boundaries. Get people to do a bit more for themselves. Even at work, if you're the good guy that always covers everyone else's shifts when they want some time off, well, if it doesn't absolutely suit you, make sure that you're not agreeing to something that ultimately spoils your need to be a free spirit. Because remember, with Uranus in the early part of your sign, and also Saturn in Pluto in your ninth house, which is about adventurism and independence, there is a change that's been going on within you last year since the 20th with Saturn, and of course since 2008 with Pluto, pushing you to be more experimental, to be more open to new ideas, and challenge that side of yourself which loves the status quo, which loves routines, which can be a little set in your ways. Now, the really exciting moment of this month, I think, occurs on the 23rd, because the Sun then arrives to join up with Mercury and also Venus and also Jupiter in the sign of Scorpio, which for you, again, is about relationships. So wonderful, isn't it? And Venus is backtracking to such a point that it then forges a conjunction with the Sun. But the key here, Taurus, is that then they are going to join in with that T-square on that nodal axis with Uranus, so we get a grand fixed cross. Now, fixed energy, as you well know, is very much about stability. It's about sustained effort. It's about sticking there for the long term. But if you put Uranus in there in the mix, and Venus is retrograde, and then the full moon, which occurs on the 26th, is actually going to be combining with Uranus in your sign, you can see that balancing your need to be an individual against what's good for a partnership can reach an explosive point if things aren't flowing very well. Now, the great news, pardon me, the great news is that from the 20th through to the 25th, Mercury is forging a fabulous angle to Pluto. So if you really wanted to talk something through with someone who's very knowledgeable about human dynamics, such as a counsellor or just a wise friend, or go online and do some research, you could have some very penetrative insights during that period of time. Also, although Mars is causing mischief in the first 2 weeks of this month in some ways, it's giving you greater confidence, but perhaps more impatience, it also forges an amazing link in the last 10 days with Pluto, a semi-sextile. And if you can balance the growing knowledge that you're developing with a greater determination, some kind of breakthrough could occur in your career, which is linked to training or travel, entirely possible in the last 10 days of this month. But back to Venus conjunct the Sun. Sometimes it's said when Venus is conjunct Sun that Venus's energy can be diminuted to some degree, so reduced. I don't know that for certain, because it's something I'm still trying to understand in greater detail through the experience of doing people's personal horoscopes. But I would say that in a classical sense, when we put Venus alongside the Sun, we talk about potential, the potential to relate better, to give out an amazing, charismatic vibe. So if you're single, The fact that Uranus is on the other side of the heavens could mean your very uniqueness can be the factor which draws someone to you. So could be potentially very exciting stuff. I think it's more around ongoing relationships, where the politics of the last 5 or 6 months and that square between Uranus and Mars, and then this grand fixed cross that's going to be occurring in the last days of this month, sets up a scenario where something may have to give. It's almost like the plates on a big ship with all the rivets in. As the ship twists in the storms, some rivets can start to pop out. If something's being resisted, the resistance could be within you, it could be within the person you're involved with, it could be the judgment that you're getting from people around you. But the need to change flows against the need to be more harmonising and compromising. If we give all of our energy away to the point that we're not standing up for what's right for us, we diminish ourselves. It's important that we don't lose our identity in being too much of a people pleaser. Now, Mars is there in the 10th house, just reminding you, giving you a little tap on the shoulder saying, look, this is your month to raise your profile, have self-confidence, and if there are some tensions that come in relationships because of this, then so be it. But of course, the reality is that even if we do articulate our view, make a stand, lay down boundaries, sometimes that can be an uncomfortable process. And it depends on the type of Taurus you are. If you're someone who prefers an easy life, doesn't really like confrontation very much, this can be more challenging. If you're someone who will say it as it is, it's about harnessing that, but in a really productive and constructive way. So as this month draws to a close, and we get to Halloween on the 31st, so Mercury pops into the sign of Sagittarius, which for you is very much about understanding not what people are saying, but what people mean, particularly as Mercury in Sagittarius is in detriment. But I feel that there are so many opportunities this month, to be perfectly honest. So although this month may be characterised as being very much a difficult time with Venus in retrograde, and it is true that there could be something in that, I also feel we need to look at those other opportunities to understand better how you relate, to understand better what you need, and most of all, to understand better what other people want from you. But if you're a natural giver, I think this is a month to find your power and your voice. If you tend to be someone who's quite set in your ways, it's a month to be more open to change. If you're someone who likes things very much on your own terms, you could be challenged by someone who would like you to hear where they're coming from more. So it depends on unique circumstances. But Venus retrograde is something to take seriously, but so is that nodal axis, because that's about balancing your emotional needs against the need to be recognised and heard. And if you can get that formula right, by the time the Sun and Venus come together and they go into opposition with Uranus, it could be a time of liberation and excitement, even if the change itself could see you a little bit daunted. But hang in there, because you don't change things very often, and if something is ripe for change, you'll instinctively know there's a reason because of that. Thank you so much for joining me, Taurus. I wish you all the best. I'd love it if you would like or comment on this video, or if you've yet to do so, please do subscribe to this channel. Thank you. Hello, thank you so much for watching my video. I'd love you to join me at my Horoscope Ace app. You can find this at www.horoscope-ace.com. You can use it through Android, iOS, Apple or Facebook. Check out your ascendant or your moon sign, or download your free birth chart. There's all your favourite videos, plus there are daily, weekly, monthly and yearly horoscopes for general, love, Chinese and Indian astrology. If your passion is tarot, there's my brilliant 3-card money or love tarot readings too. And it's all there at www.horoscope-ace.com. Thank you.